Uh-oh.
I believe they manipulated the heavyweight division. Two white men could fight. Ain't nobody talking about that. It was the first time in 100 years.
Wait a minute. Say that again?
I believe they manipulated the heavyweight division. Two white men could fight. Ain't nobody talking about that. It was the first time in 100 years.
Nobody's talking about it because it's not a conspiracy. We all know how we got here. We watched it happen, didn't you?
They just ignored that history. First, they manipulated it. They didn't want till his death. That's what Wilder say. Till his death. They didn't want two black men to fight for the undisputed title.
Well, that's definitely not true. Deontay Wilder didn't care about the other belts, and he said that himself.
The only way this fight is going to happen if it's 50-50. I don't care what it is. At this point in time, it ain't even about the belts no more, baby. It ain't as I said, I'm the most talked about, I'm the hottest fighter in the world right now, and I got one belt. And I got one belt that means more than any other belts. That's that green belt, that WBC, the most precious, the most.
So they act like AJ was scared. They act like Wilder was a bitch.
Who is this they? The only one who was acting like AJ was scared was Wilder, and the only reason the fight got held up was because of Wilder.
They said all this other shit, but the reality is they manipulated everything, and even when the boys hurt the man, they already had a plan. Two white men to fight for the undisputed.
Yeah, that's just a lot of bullshit. A lot of bullshit intended to exonerate Wilder of culpability. Deontay Wilder first fought Tyson Fury in December of 2018. And in between the first fight and the second fight, what do you notice?
That it didn't happen right away? That Wilder fought two other guys?
Right. Immediately after Deontay Wilder's initial meeting with Tyson Fury, he was still being made offers by Matchroom to go unify titles with Anthony Joshua. The last one was a 60-40 split.
It was in January of the following year, right after the first Fury fight.
A guaranteed purse of $15 million at 40% of the pay-per-view's upside, and you know there would have been one, because this fight was all anybody was talking about at the time. I'm of the opinion that this fight would have shattered records.
And they made Wilder this offer right after the first Fury fight.
Deontay Wilder rejected it. He would not accept Eddie Hearn's offer to fight Anthony Joshua at 60-40. DAZN then steps in themselves.
They don't involve Eddie Hearn in these negotiations because they knew Team Wilder doesn't like Eddie Hearn.
In March of that same year, they offered Deontay Wilder $100 million to fight Anthony Joshua.
He rejected that too.
It was a packaged deal where he'd make $20 million to fight Dominic Breazeale, who he ended up fighting anyway, and two Anthony Joshua fights, two of them, one in the United Kingdom and another in the United States. He rejected that.
He rejected that.
So that he could end up fighting Dominic Breazeale for less money than he was offered by DAZN, then Luis Ortiz in a pointless rematch. If anybody's responsible for AJ and Wilder not fighting, it's Wilder.
He's the one who brought Tyson Fury into the picture.
If anybody to big time boxing, it's me. Don't ever forget. When I found you was strung out on coke. When I found you was like a big house, contemplating about killing yourself. So don't you ever forget who brought you to big time boxing.
Apparently, that caller at the Boxing Voice forgot. Deontay Wilder's the one who brought Fury back into the picture. Fury was not as mandatory. He wasn't owed a title shot. Wilder gave him one, voluntarily.
I drugged you back. I brought you back. I provided food and put food on your table for your family to eat. And I'm doing it for the second time. So don't you ever forget that.
That soundbite is from the press conference in between the first fight ahead of the second, Wilder said it himself. Wilder's the one who brought Tyson Fury back, so if you got some kind of problem with a white man fighting for all the belts, you can thank Wilder.
Wilder's the architect behind that one. He's the genius because he's the one who rejected offer after offer to unify with AJ to fight other people, Fury included.
He even admitted via his own social media that he was offered more money to go unify with AJ than there was in a rematch with Fury, but he's the one who chose to fight Tyson Fury. So there is no they.
There is no puppeteer pulling the strings.
No conspiracy. No alligators in the sewer. No reptile people in the pyramids. No secret society orchestrated this. Wilder is responsible. Wilder's the one who didn't prioritize Undisputed. So that when all the smoke settles, if Fury and Usyk are the last two men standing, well, that's Wilder's fault, because Wilder's the one who brought Fury back into the picture.
Even if AJ gets taken out by Alexander Usyk and loses his belts to him, well, then it could have been Wilder versus Usyk.
If Wilder would have held on to his, if he wouldn't have danced with the devil, bringing Fury back into the picture, then being on the losing end of the trilogy, that's his own fault.
So what I notice about guys like that caller at the Boxing Voices, they're not that big on responsibility, being held accountable.
You don't want to hold Wilder accountable, and because of that, I take it you're not big on accountability. It's the kind of thing that can affect all areas of life if you're not careful, and it's why a lot of guys that talk like that and sound like that and look at the world through that lens, a lot of them are losers. It's not a winner's mindset, always looking for some invisible force to blame for things being the way that they are. Just a goddamn loser. That's why you think that way, that's why you sound that way, and that's why you can't see the forest through the trees. That if Wilder was eliminated from the world title picture, it's of his own doing. He's the architect of his own downfall. It's his own fault.
Loser!
And never mind that winning or losing the Tyson Fury fights, that's up to Wilder, so that when he loses, it's not a conspiracy.
You're making him out to be a victim. A victim of what? His own decisions?
It's a pathetic mindset is what it is, and I don't pity it. I only study it.
Loser.
That's how losers think. That's how losers live.
Loser.
Well, you got some kind of problem with two guys from Europe fighting for Undisputed. Didn't Fury earn his way by beating Wilder? Didn't Usyk earn his by beating Anthony? Not once, but twice.
Loser.
You're just a goddamn loser. And boxing don't need losers like you.
Wilder did it to himself. At some point, you're gonna have to come to terms with that. And if you can't, you've got bigger problems, psychological ones.
If at any point you're struggling with the reality of things and deviating from it to create your own narrative, your own version of the story,
You're insane.
common practice in this postmodern era of snowflakes who just can't deal with things the way that they are. Lack of accountability, what their parents don't teach them, because their parents ain't shit either.
Accountability.
Matters more than you think. Maybe your mommy or your daddy should have told you that. People over at Boxing Scene say Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, the damage done, and the way forward.
Another stroll down memory lane.
All questions, concerns, and fears about whether Tyson Fury's three brutal clashes with Deontay Wilder eroded his abilities have finally been confirmed. The damage Fury took in those fights has not left him. Fury may have won 2 of the 3 heavyweight showdowns against Wilder and received a draw when many thought he won their first fight, but he also visited the canvas 4 times. 2 of those occasions were the result of flush right hands from Wilder, who is considered by most to be the hardest hitter in the heavyweight division in recent generations. For Fury to eat those punches was no small feat, but the toll has come due.
Can't you say the same thing about Nevin Pajcik knocking him down or Steve Cunningham knocking him down before he fought Wilder?
Was he damaged goods then, the way you're claiming he's damaged goods now? Wilder and Fury gave the boxing world 3 memorable events between 2018 and 2021, yet each has walked away from those fights badly bruised and forever changed. Wilder, for instance, has managed just 1 win against Robert Helenius in 3 fights since losing consecutively to Fury. Against Joseph Parker and Zhilei Zhang, it was clear he was a different fighter.
So then how good is this guy if fighting Fury was enough to take the fight out of him?
Then was he ever any good? Wilder's issues began after his clashes with Fury. He remained at the peak of his powers through their first fight in 2018, which ended in a debated draw, despite Wilder recording knockdowns in rounds rounds 9 and 12, with the latter appearing to knock Fury out cold momentarily, keeping him down until the count of 9. 2 years later, Fury inflicted on Wilder the first defeat of his career, stopping him in 7 rounds. In their first slugfest, an even more attritional battle, Fury repeated the stoppage win over Wilder, this time in the 11th round. Since then, Deontay Wilder hasn't been the same fearsome opponent who seemed to be avoided by so many potential foes years earlier.
Avoided by who? Derek Chisora wanted to fight him for years. So did Dillian White.
Wilder attempted to bounce back, recording a first-round stoppage win over Robert Helenius, but that proved to be the last gasp of his pride.
Are we going to forget all the offers that Anthony Joshua and Matchroom made to Wilder, while you claim that he was so heavily avoided?
He would go on to suffer defeats to Parker and Zhang in his next 2 outings, putting an end to his years of heavyweight dominance.
Heavyweight dominance? He held 1 title, just 1 title. Who was he dominating?
It's mixed feelings, Wilder said on the Laugh Out Loud network, because I ultimately have accomplished all my goals in the sport. I told my daughter when she was 1 that I'd be a champion, and I'd be able to support her beyond her belief. I've done that. There's a lot of things that I've accomplished that I don't feel I have to prove to anyone, because I've already proven. Now 39, Wilder may have seen enough. After a career that saw him render fighters such as Bermane Stiverne, Luis Ortiz, Dominic Breazeale, Eric Molina, and Chris Arreola unconscious.
That's bullshit. Eric Molina was stopped on his feet. So was Chris Arreola.
Running down that itemized list of names, am I supposed to be impressed? Fury, who became unified champion back in 2015 by toppling longtime champion Vladimir Klitschko, returned from an extended hiatus during which he dealt with his mental health and other issues. He returned and eventually earned back one of the heavyweight straps in a win over Wilder in their second meeting. But even as Fury became the face of the heavyweight division, the lows were as deep as the highs were soaring.
The face of the heavyweight division? Are they serious?
Fury recorded wins over Dillian White, Derek Chisora, and Francis Ngannou after triumphing over Wilder in their trilogy, but his performances in those victories were unconvincing. The win over Ngannou...
No, let me stop you right there. After Tyson Fury knocked out Dillian White, nobody was talking about how he's damaged goods. And they weren't saying that after that glorified sparring session with Derek Chisora either. You don't decide to start questioning whether or not Tyson Fury's damaged goods until after Usyk beats him 2 times. And the only real reason you're doing it is so that you can minimize Usyk's victory.
Fury lost consecutive bouts to Usyk in 2024. While he was extremely competitive in the first fight, Fury's performance in last weekend's rematch suggests that he has deteriorated over the years. Fury's punching power, ring generalship, and hand speed appeared diminished during his rematch with Usyk, which some might argue had begun as recently as the Ngannou clash.
Bullshit! You only thought he was this big puncher because he beat the hell out of Wilder. Every opinion you have about Tyson Fury goes back to Wilder.
The unanimous decision loss to Usyk may not have been surprising, but the scores in defeat were even wider for Fury the second time out. At this point, the only place it seems Fury has to go is down. Only time will tell if he wants to fight or call it quits.
So now the Monday morning quarterbacks have decided that Fury was damaged goods going into the Usyk fight. That's the narrative.
Wilder is currently at a crossroads and still determining what to do with whatever may remain of his career. He has fallen down the pecking order in the heavyweight division after previously being the fighter to beat.
What?
Retirement seems his best option. It would only offer Wilder the opportunity to enjoy the millions he has earned, but also allow him to avoid burying his greatest moments in the ring under further lackluster performances. Meanwhile, Fury may want to give the ring another try, this time against his countryman Anthony Joshua, who himself struggled and lost twice against Usyk. In his most recent fight, Joshua was thrashed in 5 rounds against Daniel Dubois in September, making the clash with Fury at least a somewhat compelling loser's bracket matchup. The duo's several attempts at facing one another during their primes failed to materialize, but they have an opportunity to give their British fans a memorable event that could offer both fitting ends.
What this is all about is saving face. Saving face for Wilder, saving face for Fury. That not that long ago, so many people told you that they were the number 1 and number 2 heavyweights at the time. History tells a different story.
What I always told you was a lot of bullshit. Tyson Fury is who he always was, and the only thing that happened was Wilder picked a cherry and it blew up in his face.
Think about what Wilder said.
When I found you was strung out on coke. When I found you was like a big house, contemplating about killing yourself.
So basically, you're admitting that you prioritized the fight with a quasi-retired Tyson Fury who was suicidal and strung out on cocaine, and you prioritized this over Undisputed. Ladies and gentlemen, what is that if not a cherry pick gone wrong?
I won't allow sentimental pundits to rewrite history. We all witnessed the same sequence of events. You just chose to interpret them differently, different from what they are.
So all of a sudden, Tyson Fury was damaged goods after the Wilder fights? You didn't say that when he knocked out Dillian Whyte. You didn't say that when he fought Derek Chisora for the third time. And I didn't see people saying that going into the Usyk fights. The first one or the second.
He did look bad in the Ngannou fight.
Though most people I saw chalked that up to Tyson Fury not taking Francis Ngannou seriously, because Francis Ngannou is not a boxer. That Fury probably didn't bother to train for that one, but we'd see a more serious, earnest effort from Tyson Fury in the Usyk fight, what became the Usyk fights.
You're just trying to deprive Alexander Usyk of credit.
More so, you want Wilder versus Fury as a trilogy to be remembered through the same lens as Bo versus Holyfield. Except Deontay Wilder didn't win one, not a single one of those fights in that trilogy.
Now, you could argue that he was damaged goods when the smoke settled.
But was this guy ever any good if all it took was to lose to Tyson Fury for him to unravel, for him to never be the same fighter?
That's it?
Then I know he ain't cut from the same cloth as Muhammad Ali or Lennox Lewis, George Foreman, Joe Frazier. All of those fighters had to rebound off of losses. All of those guys came back.
Larry Holmes.
When Anthony Joshua suffered that shock upset loss to Andy Ruiz, that was not the end of Anthony Joshua. He got his titles back.
When Joseph Parker lost his WBO title to Anthony Joshua, that was not the end of him. Here today, he's one of the top-ranked heavyweights in the division. He's one of the guys that beat Wilder.
And that's after losing to Anthony Joshua, to Dillian Whyte, arguably to Derek Chisora, and to Joe Joyce, who knocked him out. That was not the end of him.
That I'm supposed to pity Wilder?
Well, he was never the same after the Fury fights.
Please.
This DEI, great American heavyweight, you only want him to be those things because there ain't another one. We got great fighters in other divisions. We've got great guys in other weight classes, but you have to accept
Wilder was never great. Wilder was never what you made him out to be, and neither was Tyson Fury for having beaten him. You only put Fury on a pedestal because he beat Wilder, but Wilder was never any good.
And it's high time that you accepted that. The last man standing was neither Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, or Anthony Joshua for that matter. The last man standing was Usyk.
So how about you spend a little bit more time giving him credit instead of playing Wilder and Fury the violin?
Telling you, what passes for punditry these days is tantamount to paid propaganda. Boxing deserves better coverage than this.